You're a turkey twizzler, you deserve. School dinners make me sick.
The last card. The last card. I go harder. I go harder. Take me to the garden.
Welcome to CDR. I'm Bryn. This is Matt. This week we are reviewing the Gorillaz Song Machine Season 1.
Strange times.
Strange times. And it is a strange time indeed. This being the 7th album from multiple members throughout the years. There's 7 in it this time. Gorillaz, who hold the Guinness Book of Records for the most successful viral band.
Okay, based on what metric?
7 million sold copies for their first debut in 2001, where they were only produced themselves through the internet. That's why they're viral and they're the most successful. They also have the fastest growing music video, hitting 900k in the first 24 hours of being dropped.
Right.
This is what I would call the album of featured artists, because every song has a featured artist, and my week with this was a struggle. This is a album I will let you know as a Stockholm album, because it got better as I listened to it as it went on, but the first time was very difficult, and I leaned heavily on other songs, and particularly another album which is Eminem's Music to Be Murdered By B-side, which is epic.
So that's what you were listening to as like a cleanser for this
massive cleanser. I really did need it, because the first time I listened to this, I was lost.
Sure.
Massively lost. The music never seemed to kind of fit together, but it was almost like a blur to me as it rolled by.
No pun intended.
No, yeah, exactly.
So maybe I'll probably give some quick context as to what the album was. So what the project was last year was Damon. Is it Damon Albarn? Is that his name? Albarn? Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. He set out to release a new set of tracks every single month as part of the Song Machine, and this particular album is the collaboration of the tracks that were released, and in the deluxe version that we actually listened to, some additional tracks that were sort of thrown in at the end. So every track is a feature. That was kind of the idea of the album, but it was meant to be released over a period of time. So I think some of the feelings you might be having towards it are the fact that it wasn't intended to be a cohesive album. It's kind of like a best of for the year, really, in a weird sort of way. It's a best of album, so I kind of understand where you're coming from on that.
It is a web series, 1 a month for about 11 episodes, and at the time we do this review, it's at number 9. And they, in one of the interviews that I read, was they no longer feel like they need to make albums in the particular way. Now they're just making songs and releasing them in films and episodes as they would like to. This is kind of a step forward that they're taking in their Gorillaz project, which is kind of cool. Now there's these backstories, or not really backstories, but at least these intertwining films that they're making with the songs.
Yeah, I think it's a misstep, though, to forsake making cohesive albums, because like listening to a track here and there doesn't really sort of satisfy me. I like hearing something a little bit more deep and varied and well constructed. Hearing a single is great, but man, wouldn't it be better if there was 50 minutes of, totally involving music that you hadn't heard before, rather than 3 minutes. So yeah, I don't know that I particularly like that approach, but I mean, I like the fact that there's experimentation in that approach.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that you could say about this album, is that it sort of goes to a lot of different places very quickly without sort of care or consideration for the tracks that have come before or after it.
No song is the same to me. Not one seems to just follow along, except for maybe 1 or 2 rappers like to use auto-tune or mumbling, and it was quite hard and difficult to understand lyrics at time. But the music and the tracking behind it is pretty awesome and epic, and it flows very well once you've got used to the syndrome.
Yeah, for some.
Maybe for Matt. Well, this is your album. How did you go for the week? Why did you choose the Gorillaz?
I chose it because there are a lot of Gorillaz tracks out there that I'm like, yeah, this song's sick. Like Feel Good, for instance, Clint Eastwood, just like the
Being
big,
the first ones that we ever hear.
songs, like the absolute big songs. So I'm like, yeah, I could give myself a go at this. I was hoping for like interesting bass, those weird sort of melancholy hooks. I was actually wanting to listen to a Gorillaz album. That was really what I was hoping I would get. Because every song is a collaboration, and when you collaborate, you're obviously going to get the influence of the artists that you're collaborating with. You end up getting, in a lot of ways, not what I would be expecting to be a Gorillaz album. To say it's not a Gorillaz album would be disingenuous, but it's certainly not what I was expecting, and probably not for the better, mainly because of the artists at certain points chosen for certain tracks. I certainly want to encourage the creativity and just the experimentation, but I think by and large there were probably more misses than hits for me personally. That being said, on the first listen through, there were certainly tracks that I'm like, yeah, this song is pretty damn good, like really quite good, and I was bopping along to it. Like, I know you didn't particularly like Strange Times, the opening track, when we listened to it. I
was very much thrown back after coming off King Gizzards and Psychedelic Punk Rock, like that whole psychedelic rock era, albums that we listened to. This was more psychedelic to me. If I thought anything, this was just this was strange whole way through, and I thought that was pretty cool. Even though it doesn't line up, nothing really lines up, and let's kick into this. Let's like punch out what we really liked about it. I really liked how it wasn't overpowering with the music. There was mainly just like the drum beat coming through, single notes of keyboards here and there, long notes. Sometimes with the guitar would just be just strumming away in the background. Like, there was mostly of the time I could hear just drum and keyboard. And, you know, moving the instrument, interesting lyrics, even in Strangest Time. You know, sometimes I thought there was like a kazoo in the background, or the xylophone, which I really enjoyed in Strange Times. For some reason, the xylophone just slowly coming down like a countdown once again, and it really was a strange song to come in, and being Stranger Times, it was great. And then you move into Valley of Pagans with Beck.
See, I think this was the most Gorillaz track on the album, to be honest.
Pagan of Beck?
Well,
Valleys of
the
Pagans.
Pagan of Beck. Feed him to the pagans. Nah, so this particular track it was melancholy lyrics. It had a pretty funky bass line.
Yeah,
like the bass line,
late 90s line.
It was great.
Sick.
And it had lyrics that were oddly melancholy in a way that you can't identify the first time you listen to it. Like, for instance, 100 million Viagra tablets stored in a warehouse in a valley. It's just something they would sing in a Gorillaz song, or at least that's what I would interpret based on the very little that I know of them. So
I think a lot of Gorilla fans may be coming at you. I try to do a bit of Reddit.
Sure.
And
they hated this one?
No, they went deep as well, trying to connect between the videos, but that's not here or there.
No, so I mean, this track I liked on face value, because this is what I thought the album was going to be like, and I was encouraged by the first track being odd, but still having Gorillaz flavors to it. So I thought after the first two tracks, I'm like, I'm in on the ride.
It sets you up.
Yep.
It really does. I kind of really enjoyed at the end of Pagan with the douchebag talking over like, yeah, I'm on a cleanse.
Yeah. That was quite good.
I was just like, oh, that's just so good. And they worked the keyboard towards the end where for the most time it's just like da 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 through the whole song, and then to the last bit it just really ramps up. I'm like, yeah, I thought the album was getting ready to push and just become bigger, louder, almost like a Tomorrowland sort of festival album, and then we just crash.
Yeah, we hit the lo-fi portion of the album, I would say.
Slow piano driving. I just actually put down sexy silent waves, Take Me to the Garden.
the lost chord, right? So this song is very smooth. It does have a sexy feel to it. I get what you're saying there. The lead vocals come across very Bowie-esque. And yeah, the backing vocals really sort of tied in. And I think you can get away with a track like this if you were constructing it as an album, which they weren't. You could get away with a track like this after the first 2 tracks because you might need a little bit of a more lo-fi approach after what was a fairly energetic start based on normal sort of Gorillaz tracks. But then you go into songs like Pac-Man and Chalk Tablet Towers, and you just never really get out of that sort of speed.
See, I didn't mind Pac-Man.
Yeah.
When it first started, I instantly thought this is going to be a Snoop Dogg soundtrack, and then Schoolboy Q comes in and he actually does a really, really good job. I kind of enjoyed this one for the fact of the rapping, and it just felt really old school.
I'm stressing out, I'm stressing. Yeah. You know what my note says? It says decent without impressing, and I think that's ultimately how I feel about a lot of these tracks. There's nothing actually inherently wrong with the lo-fi tracks. I think they're pretty groovy in their own sort of way, but I'm pretty happy to skip past these tracks. And even like Chalk Tablet Towers has that hooky little vocal line right at the very start that sort of plays out throughout, and then it sort of just hits a bit pedestrian. The lyrics are a bit bland by comparison. It's, I don't think, a particularly good track.
Yeah, I kind of think that the keyboard and the drums just make it interesting throughout this.
Yeah,
and the
maybe.
Keyboard's got a good intro, and then the drums are just the main riding force throughout the whole thing, and all it is just drums and keyboard long notes. Like,
you know what this song is kind of like? It's like that song is like holding water, right? You've got some water, you want to hold it, but it just slips through your hands. Like every time I tried to listen to it and really give it a fair go, I'd just be distracted by, like, I don't know, the blank wall in front of me.
Boy, that's the lo-fi getting into you.
I hate it. I need something with some sort of, I was saying this earlier today, some sort of edge to it, and I guess I didn't find it in this song.
And then Elton John makes an appearance.
What an odd mix of people.
I find that Elton probably is just popping up these days like, I'm just going to do whatever the fuck I want.
So the context, we're now talking about the Pink Phantom.
The Pink Phantom.
So that's the context.
Yeah, at this time I actually thought when I listened to the album, are they in a dream world? And then they reference in the dream in this song. I'm like, is this a dream? Is this just a fantasy?
Well, the Phantom being obviously the car that they're sort of driving around in.
Is the car
Phantom 5.
Is that the name of the car?
Yeah, they say it at the start of the song as part of the lyrics. But in terms of the way the song's sort of built, it's an interesting mix. You have, I assume his name is Black, even though the B is with a 6, and Elton John, and then obviously the Gorillaz lead.
Yep.
Their vocal performances couldn't be more different. Like, it sort of hits such a wide, varied space. You have like Elton John, who must be getting on in years because he sort of doesn't hit the notes quite as hard as I would expect him to.
He's not as sharp as he used to, but he's still pretty good.
His performance is still great, but like you're not hearing him bust the note out. But I mean, how old's Elton John nowadays? He must be like,
you mean actual age or potential drug age?
It doesn't matter.
It adds 10 to 15 years.
It doesn't matter. I don't think I can hit any of the notes that
he...
I don't think I could hit any of the notes that he did when he was 50. You know, let alone... So if he's 70/80, there's no chance I can be judging him too harshly. I think he sounds fine. But it ends up sounding a bit weird in the mix. Do
you feel like this... I felt like this song did work together with Black and Elton John. Even though they're all different.
Yeah, I think there were parts that I liked about this song, but I don't think I like this song. I think that's really... and that's sort of the theme for a lot of these more lo-fi tracks. I can appreciate it, but I really don't like them personally.
Yeah, but let's talk about the 80s track, which is the next song, Aries. It just goes into an 80s tune and it's happy. And, you know, they're introducing, you know, more bass, erratic drums, and somewhere in the middle, there's a thunderstorm.
Yeah, this is a good track. It has the random, beat drums sort of punching at random times, giving you a little bit of excitement to the track. I think it's really self-aware. I think the lyrics are a little bit more interesting. And like, I'm a model that is uncomplicated. You can play a happy tune on me. Like, it's just, it's interesting, and I feel like it references The Song Machine. It's such a tie-in to the album. If there was an album theme, that would be it. I think the song's really good, actually.
Yeah, I think we're just going to be going through all these songs because every single one is different.
It's an island. Every track is an island.
Yeah, we're sitting in Hawaii. There's thousands of them.
That being said, when we hit the deluxe portion, we can probably breeze through.
We can breeze right through. Like, can we do Friday the 13th, Octavian? I kind of like this where it's like you find a pagan on the street, turn him around, pin him to the ground. I was like, is this a reference back to the Valley of the Pagan?
Possibly. I mean, any little throwback is all you need to try and stitch together an album. But I don't know that I like this song. Like, I don't think it's bad.
Is it the mumbling rap that doesn't get to you?
I think it's the lo-fi aesthetic that I just didn't vibe with.
You're right.
And not that I dislike songs that are lo-fi, but I just think there was some critical element that really didn't draw me in. But like, this song isn't bad. I just think it's average.
A lot of these songs could easily be skipped if I ever to listen to it again, or if it came across.
Like, for instance, right? Would you listen to Friday 13th before listening to Désolé?
No, and I would definitely skip Dead Butterflies.
Yeah, I would skip Dead Butterflies too. But I think there's something in Désolé that
I had a lot of fun listening to this, even though half of the lyrics are in, I presume, French.
Some in French and some in
Spanish or Portuguese.
Pass, but the feature is an African singer.
Yes.
So I'd assume there would be. I should have looked this up, but there should. I suspect there is some of that tied in as well. I really quite like.
Désolé.
Yeah, it's
Désolé.
Sticks
and
in
Désolé,
your head.
For people who don't know, means sorry, and it does go with the film clip. Or what I thought it was when I first listened was Désolé, which means solitary, which also revolves very well into the film clip. It's actually kind of freaky.
Yeah.
This actually had probably one of my most favorite instruments going on with the guitar and the way that the guitar was playing. It wasn't letting the notes ring out. It was just like duh, 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 duh. And I generally get really excited when I hear that in any song. Now, come along with trumpets and drums. And you know what? I really don't mind the lyrics at all because they're quite poppy and it's easy to sing along to. Désolé.
Yeah,
Désolé.
It certainly buries in.
And the feature, she has an amazing voice and it's great. I enjoyed it. To the last, Monetary Bliss, which is probably the most energetic song.
Easily.
And meant to be the original final track. And this is with Slow Tie and Slaves.
This track is awesome.
It is great.
It's great. It has lyrics like "You're a turkey twizzler, you deserve school dinners." Like, it's just straight out of like.
This is that Chuck Nee sort of English tongue-in-cheek humor you like too.
Yeah, mixed in, with something approaching like aggressive British rap, really.
Yeah,
like a sort of a Jamie T-esque performance. It's great, and the entire song is completely a beat up on whoever the hell Rita is. She's dim. She's like a flickering light bulb. Is basically what the track's all about. And yeah, I love this song. This song's great.
I thought that was the banger of the track, and
Easily
that's probably the easiest one I would listen to again.
The deluxe tracks.
Thanks to Matt, he picks the deluxe.
Well, my YouTube Music did not have the standard album option. If we did, I would have preferred it because I think a lot of the deluxe tracks don't really deliver anything new, interesting, or really worth diving into. There are exceptions. So I think the track MLS with Chai and JPEG Mafia is actually pretty fun.
That was really good. You think, was it Japanese
Yeah,
singing in it?
yeah, absolutely.
Who's singing that?
That's Chai.
Yeah.
So JPEG Mafia is the guy rapping.
Yep.
We nearly listened to one of JPEG Mafia's albums, and we might still.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, he's the one that has the track something like Jesus is a Thought or something. That was him.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was telling you about it earlier. And I actually quite liked the last song, How Far, with Skepta and
Tony Allen.
Yeah, Tony Allen.
Rest in peace.
It has a better rap vibe. I think the lyrics are fiery, and it's generally a pretty good track.
Yep.
But yeah, the other four, what is it? Opium, Simplicity.
Opium with a 2-minute intro of nothing. That was just like a dance track, tribal. And, you know, there's children's half singing, half crying in the back. I was so put off. Simplicity, the same. Severed Head, I almost zoned out. It was like a club vibe. Lyrics weren't that bad. Moonchild, I thought was pretty good.
As in what, love with love to an X?
Yeah, with love to an X. But, you know, yeah, MLS stood out the most. And How Far was probably a killer ending track.
Yeah, so, I mean, this sort of typified then the whole experience, because with the deluxe tracks, it ends up being about an hour. And because it's such a long time between tracks that sort of really draw me in and hold my attention, it ends up being a tough listen. If it's something that you have on as background music, this is actually really quite easy to just play and have go on in the background until you hit certain songs.
I was about to say, I disagree, because I would find this album distracting at some times, because you'd be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, but imagine you got like the Lost Chord, Pac-Man, Chalk Tablet Towers, the Pink Phantom. Even Aries isn't really that upbeat. And then Dead Butterflies isn't really that upbeat. Like, most of the album sort of potters along. And then a lot of the tracks in the deluxe portion of the album also potter along. Yeah, you could have it on in the background at a party and not really worry too much about it. But yeah, I don't think I'll return to it to listen to it personally.
Yep.
And with like Momentary Bliss is like the only song I think I'm going to take away and listen to again afterwards.
Probably. Definitely. I've always struggled with being a fan of Gorillaz, but I've never really got drawn to them. I remember being in high school when they first came out, and I think Melancholy Hill came out, and everyone was just frothing over it. Like, it's the greatest album it was the album of the year. And I just could not get into it. I never could really get into it, besides like the one or two songs that would constantly be played and you'd be like, feel good.
Yeah. That song is a banger though, like that bass line. And that's probably why I felt disappointed. It was that I just didn't... I was really hoping to latch on to that particular energy, and I got something different. And, you know, oh no, you know, where it happens. But unfortunately, yeah, I might be slow to go to a different Gorillaz album in the future. Yeah,
fair enough. The Gorillaz are fantastic. They're forever evolving and trying new things, which all artists should. They're really taking in a different direction, especially at a time now where they're at home and can't tour. They really did take a sidestep and take a different path, which a lot of artists should maybe look at doing along the way if they, you know, have these skills in creating their own themes and films. Plus, they brought out a comic. That's pretty cool.
I mean, they're inclined to. They animate their entire video clips. It'd be easier just to bring out comics, wouldn't it?
It would be. It's... If you're a fan, you're going to love it.
If you're not, you won't.
If you're not, you're going to struggle with it. The more you listen to it, the easier it gets.
If you like specific artists, I don't think this album is meant to be consumed as an album. That's the impression I get listening to it. So if there are tracks or features on the album that you're like, oh, I like Schoolboy Q, whatever, go and listen to that track. Yep. You'll probably love it, because the tracks from the people that I knew I would be towards the higher end of my enjoyment. Like, for instance, Momentary Bliss, Valley of the Pagans, and even the Elton John track, even though it wasn't my favorite, like, I can appreciate and sort of go back and enjoy that ahead of a lot of others that are on this album.
I wonder if I favor that song because of Elton John.
Possibly.
Who knows? Maybe he just brings some charisma, and he does. And I could just imagine him behind the piano, and it just. It'd be so cool.
But you get to revel in the absurdity of just who's on that track, and I think that's one of the drawing cards for that particular song. Anyway, I think I've had enough talking about this.
Yeah,
album.
You can see we're not super excited about this album. I'm going to predict probably a 5 for at least being generally okay with the music.
So, I mean, I need to put a line in the sand as to what these scores actually are. These scores are...
on your personal feelings.
Yes, but there's a lot on this album to like. It's just I disliked the album. And this is such a difficult one to sort of pinpoint. I think I'd prefer to put it down to my listening enjoyment with maybe some reflection on how well it was put together. And I think track by track, the production's amazing, and more or less the songs piece themselves together pretty well. I don't think I can give it a 5 though, because that means that I may listen to it at some point in the future.
Oh, it's got a 50-50 chance.
There is no chance I'm listening to this again. I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Fair enough. It doesn't make it. Give it a listen. Preferably watch the web series because that's what it's meant to be.
And watch the video clips because they're all awesome.
They are. They are really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week, what are we doing? What are we listening to? I'm excited. Tell me, please.
Okay. Well, I changed my mind. I was going to give you a chance to choose between Australian, female, or family band.
So 3 choices: Australian, female, family band.
It's Australian female artist and a family organized
band
group.
Okay, so if I have to have a guess at what they are, the family organized might be Kings of Leon. I know they released an album recently. In terms of but then you would have said Australian. Anyway, oh wait, no, they're not Australian. Oh, what's wrong with me? The Australian female artist. Oof. Has Kylie released any music lately? I don't know if I want to do a disco album.
I doubt I would ever.
But you might, because maybe you hate me after...
I do have a challenge for you.
Okay. What's the challenge?
The challenge is an album I will give to you to listen to. You only have to listen to it once.
Right.
And I want to just get your opinion.
Okay.
If you do, and you just got to give me a yes or no, you liked it, and what you may have liked it. Yep. We can discuss it next week.
Sure. Okay.
But if you do take on the challenge,
yep,
you get to choose whatever album as long as whatever. Like, just be ridiculous.
I have a free.
You have a free to be a prick.
Oh, that's good too, because I have new prick albums that I can throw at you too. I've got a new cache of stuff for you. Okay, great. Yeah, absolutely. I take that challenge.
All right, sweet. Well, the album you're going to listen to is Eminem's B-side of Music to Be Murdered By.
Okay, fair enough.
And next week, you know what I'm going to choose for you? We're going with Australian. We're going with the female, and it's going to be Tash Sultana. With Terra Firma.
Terra Firma, Tash Sultana, Eminem, Music to Be Murdered By. B-side, whatever the hell that means. Cool, great.
And you were right. The other one was going to be Kings of Leon. So All right. CDR, I'm Brendan, this is Matt, and thank you for coming.
Goodbye.
Later.